One of the things I want to say in closing is just to talk quickly about the declaration and the international part, because when people are saying, well, what are you going to do? You know, here you are, you're saying, don't do this, don't do that. What are some of the things that we need to do? I think one of the things is that we need to focus a lot more on our international personality as Indigenous people, because when the white guys came over here from Europe, they made it an international problem right to begin with. You know, there's no and ifs and buts about it. But one thing about the international work is what you're really doing is you're working for your grandchildren, not for you. You're not going to get a heck of a lot out of it at our age nowadays. Like, I got 7 grandkids, and some of them are here actually. And the thing is that Canada is really scared of the position that they're in. You know, Canada voted against the declaration twice. Once in June 26, 2006, and also on September 13. And this is kind of the voting score there. You can see the 4 different countries are highlighted in yellow. And 143 voted for it, and 4 voted against. And one of the reasons they voted against this is because the way BC has been established, they've been established based upon this thing called the colonial doctrines of discovery, which basically means they can steal our land, you know? And they operated on that for hundreds of years. And we have basically subsidized, we basically made Canada one of the most wealthiest countries in the world. You know, there's no and ifs and buts about it. This is the first document, the first time the international community said no. This is the first international instrument, just a few years ago, that actually said, you have fundamental basic human rights as Indigenous people, and that is the ownership of the land. And we need to push that. And we need to look at the legislation through the eyes of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. Does it comply with this basic principle? Because this is the basic minimum standard which we have as Indigenous people, is this document. Measured against that document and put Canada and British Columbia to the test. And we just got a response just today from CERD on this issue. And they're questioning very seriously the arrests of our people up at Sun Peaks, and asking Canada for more answers to some of the problem. They're questioning very seriously the indebtedness of the Fountain Indian Band in terms of the loans that they had. They were the ones that borrowed about $2.4 million over 5 in the BC treaty process. And that's the one where I said Al Price wrote them a letter from DIA, Department of Indian Affairs, wrote them a letter and told them that they want that loan paid back in 5 years at 4.26% interest, which would make a payment of that band of $27,000 a month. You know, and that's the kind of pressure those guys are putting on them to get back involved in the process. And the other one is Hereditary Chief Dexter Qua from the Little Tene, and CERD also asked them about that one, because, you know, these guys borrowed about around $7 million, and what the government was doing was they're going to try to collect it from them after they voted no against the final agreement, and in order for them not to have to pay that money back, what they did was they had to stay in the BC treaty process. And the purpose for staying in the BC treaty process is to have a revote, because they're not satisfied with the no vote. And so we asked the CERD committee to challenge Canada, and they're asking Canada about using money and as a pressure tactic on trying to force Indian people to agree with the kinds of deals that they want. The other one is Bertha Williams. She actually traveled with me over to Geneva, and she's from the Tawasan peoples, and she voted against the the Tawasin final agreement. And what she was just concerned about is her rights as an Indigenous woman and family who don't support the treaty process. She's wondering, how can these other people vote in favor to take away my Aboriginal title, and why, and I don't want to do that. What is the international position vis-a-vis the human rights, especially in light of the Declaration and other things, in terms of protecting this one woman and her family. But one of the things I just want to mention is the kind of problem that sort of emerges from this Halicum amicus curiae submission. And you can really see the problem with working with the province, especially in view of this amicus curiae submission that you people, that Sawapmuk and as from Splatchin, actually are supporting here. What happened back in 1881 was that this guy Dunsmuir, this is done by Duncan is right here, Cowichan and all these different people from there. But anyways, that's where they got the right of way to extend the railway. You know how they had the railway belt through this area, and the company got so many 20 miles or so on either side of the railway. Over here on Vancouver Island, they got the same kind of deal, and they gave away the people, the Cowichan people, from their lands. And the thing is that when they gave it away to this guy, Dunsmuir, he converted it to fee simple, and that's where Duncan is, and Ladysmith and Chemainus and all those places are. And because the province said, and the federal government said, that private land and fee simple are not on the table, they couldn't negotiate anything in that region. And the government just stood fast on that. So these guys have to go to this international, Inter-American Commission on Human Rights from the Organization of American States, and they're leaving on Friday to go to Washington, D.C. to work on this issue. But these guys clearly in the factual situation are saying that the province hasn't changed its stripes. That's what it's meaning, and they're trying to convince us that they've changed their stripes. They could change their stripes by just agreeing with these people that there has to be some form of compensation because of the expropriation of their land way back in 1881 when this Dunsmuir guy took it over, But the province isn't willing to do that, so the recognition doesn't really have a lot of substance. When at the one level we're talking about negotiating and finding an agreement with them on the one hand, and then these guys are forced to take off to the Organization of American States Human Rights Commission to try and deal with this issue. And we're supporting them, we need to get our ducks in line here in a way, you know what I mean? Every year, before the permanent form, or actually just for the last 4 years, because it's actually the 8th year, but for the last 4 years, the North American Indigenous Peoples Caucus meets, and it's really anybody that can afford to get there, because there's no money involved. Everybody does this work on a voluntary basis at the international level, and most of the people anyways. And we meet together and we talk about what our position's going to be at the upcoming Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues, which is a conference that normally happens in May for 2 weeks in New York City at the headquarters of the United Nations. They always have an agenda. And so what we do is we talk about the agenda and we come up with a common report. And the common report right now is being finally drafted right now. We've got all the key points in it and we're just finalizing it off. And within a week's time, we'll have it completed and we'll submit it to the United Nations. And that'll become the official position of the Indigenous people for North America. And out of this commission, out of this caucus, they normally appoint a couple of people to be coordinators. And this year I was selected along with a lady from the Paiute Nation down in Pyramid Lake, Nevada. Anyways, so I'm part of that kind of group. Anyways, that's the end of my show. Thank you.